A warm welcome to you all young minds to the class. Actually, today we are going to come across settlements and migration unit number 7. Before I step into unit number 7, Nana, there are one or two areas of population, unit 6, which we have to look into. First one is one keyword which is not touched much in I spoke about, but I did not try to define. That is population distribution. Population distribution is the distribution of people in different parts, in different geographical regions. It means certain areas the concentration of people is very much more. Certain areas the concentration of people is very much moderate. Certain areas it is sparse. It will be concentrated more where fertile soil is available and ample availability of water. Such natural resources are available in a plenty. There more people will be getting concentrated. Why? Because there exists availability of employment, fertile soil, water availability in the form of rivers, rivulets, perennial rivers like that, and rainfall occurring constantly that helps the agricultural activity. People get engaged in agricultural activity, and in a year, 3 times they can grow crops. In 3 agriculture seasons, they can grow crops. Every inch of the soil is used for agricultural activity. So automatically many people, agricultural activity involves and includes much physical labor. That's why many people come and settle over there, and even they don't have land, they extend the physical labor as agricultural laborers, and they get employment. As water is available in plenty in the perennial rivers, fish wealth will be there. Fisher folk means fishermen. Community come and they settle and they collect the fishes and so on. And they sell it to some other traders will come, some other part trade, transportation, all this service sector activity will be there. And apart from that, agriculture sector, industrial sector, agrarian based industries or agro-based industries can be established over there. Fertilizers, those who produce fertilizers, pesticides, like this, some manures, artificial manures to strengthen the plant. So industries will come. Industries will also provide employment. In this way, primary sector, secondary sector, service sector getting going in a big way. Their activity is going on. If the 3 sectors is going in a big way, they provide employment. That's why more people will be concentrated in that areas. Naturally, plains are the places where these all things are available. So there the employment will be more and more people will be coming and settling over there. That's why they are highly concentrated. Almost 40% of Indian population lives in northern plain, great northern plain. Like states Haryana, Punjab, northern Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Assam, and also Bengal, West Bengal. These are the places in India where population is highly concentrated. And plateau, the peninsula plateau is there, below the northern plain to up to Kanyakumari, almost up to Nilgiris. In this region, the population is moderate because rain-fed. If agriculture activity is rain-fed, but they are rich in minerals. That's why mining activity will be more. Another primary activity called mining will be more. Got it? And mineral-based industries will be there more. So in this way, it is not much in agriculture activity and moderate in agriculture activity, moderate in industrial activity. So naturally, there will be moderate population. Hilly terrains where soil is unfertile, shallow, and where they don't experience much rainfall, and the undulating nature of the terrain, that is rocks, they rise high, low down, and high and low down. So it's not conducive or suitable for growing any crop or any industrial activity. Generally, tribal people will be living in the hilly terrains, and the population concentration will be very less, sparse we can call. So that is Arunachal. That's why Arunachal Pradesh, being a hilly terrain, noticed registered less density of population in India among all states. So this is a story about distribution of the population and how they get distributed. And in this distributed also, how many are male, how many are female, why male are more, why male are more concentrated in this particular area, female are more concentrated, then why female are concentrated more in this Y region, why male are there in the X region. To study this, we have to look into the distribution of the population, what age group people are there, what gender people are there in X region, Y region, and what is the reasons. To study all that, population distribution will be helpful to us, right? Now we see to other area, the consequences of low sex ratio or abnormal sex ratio or high sex ratio. Low sex ratio, low sex ratio always leads to certain problems. At the same time, it will be turning a benefit to the girl child also. Nowadays, right now, how it will be advantage to the girls right now is, one way of advantage is their number is less, and there will be a good demand to the girl child, and automatically girl child can choose her life partner or her career or any future aspects easily. Got it? Now girl become a market product and she gets a good demand. Got it? So when she gets a good demand, the other fellows are ready to pay back, and the dowry system will not be existing. That is one advantage now. Dowry system will be disappearing. And old days we have Kanya Shulkam. That means the male used to give money to the parents of the girls, and those fellows used to get to marry the girls. And later course of time, it turned into dowry as women the numbers increased and male started declining. The number of males started declining. This happened, but once again, the Sukanya Shulkam comes back, where the bride groom will be paying some money to the parent of the bride, and they will be. And here one thing we have to remember that if the same thing happens, what happens is that it also causes a harm to the girls, particularly girls who are belonging to the lower strata of the society or below middle class. They will be suffering because parents, in greed of money, they sell away the baby. They sell away the baby, a girl child. 6 years old will be getting married to 60 years old. Fellow gives money for 2 lakhs or 5 lakhs. Yeah, they are getting some money, they will get married a girl child. Child marriage will be coming back again. And as girl child is having good demand, she is seen as a market product. The fellows who are in greed of money, they start abducting, or they will be kidnapping the girl child, and they will be selling in the market. That is what we can call as flesh trade, which is called as trafficking in women. Women trafficking increases. An estimated study says of 1990s, 100 million women are missing, and 80 million women are every year missing out. That means baby child who have to come out. She is getting killed when she is in the form of foeticide. Because of foeticide, 80 million of the girls who have to come out and become women, they are missing out. So this leads to the what we can call, because gender bias, preference to the male child. So this is what happens when missing of women, fellows, and there is no security to the women. Every parent have to live in worry. Got it? And sending them to the girls, sending girls to schools, colleges becomes very hard. And the girl who have to grow well as an independent individual loses her freedom. Got it? Yeah. And not only this, the fellows were male who are belonging to the middle class or below middle class, and who are not having proper settlement, proper jobs and proper income. It's very hard. It's very hard. The fellows get married. And when they don't get this social bonding available, or they don't get an opportunity to marry, that fellows, because of their age tendencies, they will be trying to commit some atrocities against women, outraging the modesty of women. So crime rate increases, law and order problem increases in a society because of low sex ratio, advantages and disadvantages. High sex ratio. High sex ratio gives women more freedom. And of course, what is the disadvantage? At times, polyandrism also will be coming into existence. Polyandrism means a lady will be preferring more than one or two men. That's not good sign of any progressing society. But of course, it may be called as freedom of women, like what freedom of man is enjoying today. That may be there. When first sex ratio is there, more sex ratio, female are more than the male. Polyandrism may get developed. But one thing is that they can enjoy maximum freedom. Women will enjoy security and freedom. At the same time, this happens. But so some unwanted things like homosexuality and so also increase because of low sex ratio and also because of high sex ratio also. But lesbianism among women or gayism among male are quite common seen. Gayism when the sex ratio is less, and it is lesbianism when sex ratio is more. But that is homosexuality among women is called lesbianism, whereas homosexuality among male is called gayism. Right? They will be increasing. So these adverse which are not welcomable. We can't welcome such things. That to a traditional society like India, which got bankrupt on a great culture, but a culture which gives equal value to all the human beings. So we can't welcome such thing, or any progressive society can't welcome these all things. And these are the consequences, advantages and disadvantages of sex ratio being low or sex ratio being high. And some more things we can discuss before going to the final exam when phases come. Surely SVP sir will give you much more information about these particular things. Right now, we go into settlement and migration. What is this settlement and migration? Settlement and migration is the lesson number 7 or unit number 7 on settlement. Before we know the definition of settlement, I will make you know what made the man to have a settlement. Almost all 12,000 years from now, means 2000 after Christ, 10,000 years before Christ. But this 12 from now 12,000 years before, man started a second life. What happened to man earlier? For almost 1.8 lakh years, 1,80,000 years, he had 1.80 lakh years, 1.80 lakh years or 1.8 lakh years, he had man enjoyed a nomadic life. Nomadic life means no permanent stay at any place, constantly moved from one place to other place. Gypsyhood, we can say. This is also called as gypsyhood. But it moves. What for he will be moving? Why did he move early man up to 1.8 lakh years? He moved in search of food. He don't know how to prepare food of himself and store it somewhere. He only knows to get food from the nature, ready-made, every day. How? By hunting or fishing. What he done? Constantly moving from one point to other. He used to move along with other animals. At times he lived in the same cave where a lion and a tiger lived. Night they used to sleep together. You don't have any fear like you're going to have by seeing a lion or tiger. What it? He used to think like he don't have sense also that they are wild animals and so on. I am a human being. Or he also moved like an animal only. And whenever he feels hungry, hunting. At first, or trying to get something from the trees to fill his belly, hunger-stricken belly. In this way, he carried his life activity earlier, and he moved in that stage. Where he was banked upon hunting and gathering the food, or fishing and gathering the food. That stage is called hunter-gatherer stage. For almost all 1 lakh hunter-gatherer stage. For 1 lakh years of 1 lakh 80,000 years, man had this life. But suddenly, some 12,000 years from now, before, he started growing, producing his food, basing upon the natural resources like water, sunshine, and what we can call soil. Wherever the water bodies are there he started staying, which is called sedentary life. He started having a sedentary life. Sedentary means a settled or stationary life. What made him to have settled and stationary life? This 12,000 years before. He started producing the food and first activity. That's why agriculture is one of the primary activity along with fishing, mining, and forestry, and so on. Agriculture is one of the primary activity. Why we call primary activity? First activity of production of man. What did he? He started producing what? Food. First food he started producing. So he started a sedentary life for the sake of production of food. Production of food. And nearby, under the trees, staying under the trees, he started certain activity, or after time, sometime he started making branches of the tree and shelter for him. In this way, gradually, by trial and error method, he started making a residence which is permanent for him, where he can protect himself from extremity of the climatic conditions. Maybe extreme cool, extreme hot or rainy, so that he will not get he will not get impacted by that, or he will be not getting influenced by that. For that purpose, he started making his shelter. That's how settlement. And at one point of time, man moved in bands by seeing other animals. Bands means group up. We say a band mano means a group of people together. So he used to move in bands. When he is in hunter-gatherer stage, he used to move in bands. Now these bands started making their shelter. They started making their agricultural land, piece of land, cutting down the trees, and they started. So this is how the settlements came into existence. Later on, these settlements took a different form, and now we are seeing duplex and triplex houses coming into existence. Residences coming into existence. These are all residences which we see in and around us, and where we stay. These are nothing but settlement. These are nothing but settlement. So, and what is the purpose of this settlement, Nana? To carry certain activities, we will be making this settlement. Earlier man, agriculture activity got a settlement. Now what are the things that will be influencing us to make a settlement? For religious activities, for cultural activities, for medical and health protection, for education, for having a decent and comfortable life. To have a sophisticated life, comfortable life, we start making our settlement. Now we go into the definition of settlement. What is the definition of settlement? Definition of settlement is the way we organize ourselves and our living spaces in a place is called settlement. What is settlement? The way we organize ourselves. Organize means what activity we have to do. And our living spaces in a place is called settlement. The place where we are living, how it should be, what way it should be higher than the road or below the road. Below the road, what happens now? No one thinks of making their home below the road. Why? Because if it is below, what happens is all the rainwater will be running into your home and your home will be drowned. That's why always our home should be elevated from the street which goes in front of our home. Got it? At times municipal authorities will be raising the height. At that time it will be a problem to us. 20 years afterwards it will not be the same. So now in Erupalam today, if you newspaper you observe, one of the man lifted his home and with what we can shock absorbers of vehicles, not shock absorbers, what they are called, jackies. The house was made to lifted height and a foundation is made because 20 years back he constructed the house. At that time it is elevated than the road, but now road got elevated, his house became down, rainy season water coming in, he started. So the way we organize ourselves, our places where we in a place, it is called settlement. Right, I'll write the definition once again. The way, what is settlement? What is a settlement? The way we organize ourselves and our living spaces. In a place is called settlement. Settlement. The way we organize ourselves and also our living spaces in a place is called settlement. And what are the things we consider when we make our settlement? What makes us to go for a settlement? That means what are the factors that we will be observing when we want to make a settlement? We will be observing three things, Nana. What are the three things? Site, situation, to make a settlement, factors of settlement, factors to make a settlement. One, site. It is not SIGHT. SIT, site, means a place. And what characteristics of a site we will be observing? That also I will say. Site. SIGHT site means it is ocular thing, not but SITE site. Situation. Historical background. Yeah. Site. What are the characteristics of a site we will be taking when we want to make a house? We want a place. When we are opting for a place, what are the characteristics of that place we will be observing? It's a topography. Topography means topography. How it is existing. It is rising high or low. Is it a square or rectangle? We will be observing the topography, external structure. Something you see. If a place is like this, can we make a home? We can't make. The topography is not similar. It is undulating. Somewhere rising ahead, somewhere falling down, rising ahead, falling down. We can't make any settlement. That topography, because topography of that particular place is not right. If you see a place like this, yeah, now you see topography of this place. Is it conducive for construction or not? Very clearly it is conducive. Why? Because here we can make what we can call our gate, okay, and we will be making a lawn here. This is the lawns and car parking area. What is it? Yeah, next it is what we can call bedroom, another bedroom, and this is hall. Here is kitchen room, and study room for the children. So we have a grand way of activity, but this is a hall, okay, and this is a study room, kitchen, master bedroom of children, and there is a car parking, a lawn. See, topography is a square or rectangular. We can make a settlement. We'll observe that. Next, whether water is available, water source. What is the story of water source? Municipal supply is there or not? Municipal supply will be very good when there is a river or rivulet, like Munneru is rivulet of us, which gives us water. Or when we are in shortage of from Paleru, we get water. Paleru Lake, 30 kilometers away from Gamma. So, drinking water, no problem. Okay, these rivers, rivulets, they are not there. Ponds, pools, lakes are not there. Whether what is the status of the groundwater? What is the status of the groundwater? Whether groundwater is available in plenty? Okay. If it is available, no problem. Even that water is not there, we can drag it from the ground by using the bore wells. So what is the other fact we will see? Water resources. Either surface waters are available or groundwater is available or not, we will be seeing. One. Topography. Next one is water availability of water resources. Availability of water resources. Next, altitude, height. At what height it is? It is located at good height or low? Somewhere deep in the valley. We will be looking into altitude, height, and safety and security. Safety and security. Safety and security are important for us. So, okay, I will make settlement somewhere in the forest. Is it safe and secure for me? No. Why? Because there will be threat from fellow beings, human beings, or wild animals, or vicious serpents, or vicious creatures like a crab, or like a scorpion or snake and so on. Or an anaconda may come, pythons may come, a tiger's lions may come. So no safety and security if you make alone your settlement. So that's why we will be making settlement in the places where safety and security is there. You see, even from the centuries back, even from the centuries back, Chhatrapati Shivaji made his fort on Pratapgarh hills, Pratapgarh fort on hill. Why? Because from there he can easily see enemy coming to the faraway places, our common fort. How high it is, from there they can easily identify enemy coming from a faraway place and they can attack before they enter into the domain, into the place where king lives. But his army can attack. Right. In this way, that is very important. But it's safety and security. So these are the important things we will be looking into when we want to opt for a site. Topography, availability of resources, altitude, safety, security. Got it right? Next, situation. Situation is connectivity. It is nothing but connectivity. Whether the place is connectivity. Situation is nothing but connectivity. Whether this place is having good connectivity. What good connectivity? Whether roadways are there, railways are there, airways are there, waterways are there or not, we will be looking into. Any one of these should be there. but it should be linked with other places now. We alone can't stay at a place. Khammam, you see, Khammam is preferred by many people because in both Telugu states or from abroad, from other parts of India, Rajasthanis come, Gujaratis come, Marathas come, Keralites come. They all be settling in Khammam. Why? Because Khammam is having rail connectivity, train connectivity. But Khammam is having road connectivity. Just if you go 60 kilometers, you will be catching national highway from Vijayawada to Nagapur. Just 125 kilometers to travel from Khammam, you will be catching national highway number 5, Kolkata to Chennai. Got it? And if you see places like Visakhapatnam is having rail connectivity and naturally formed harbour, Hindustan shipyard. Got it? So naturally formed harbour, waterways, roadways, good roadways, National Highway 5, connecting Kolkata and Chennai. Visakhapatnam lies on the National Highway 5. Apart from that, air force, air connectivity is there, and there is connectivity of train also around the country. All trains, trains going through to east up to Assam. They will go through Visakhapatnam, go to touching the extreme Kanyakumari. They go through Visakhapatnam. Train connectivity, airways, roadways. That's why the population of Visakhapatnam is increasing in leaps and bounds. The statistics are given in your textbook. Now look into that, right? Now history of the place. We will be seeing the history of the place now.